which got published, but that was on the genetic code of a certain strain of E. coli. So that was not a regular book. But when I decided that I was going to do this, I said, how do I go about doing it? And my mother's in the back of my head constantly saying, write a story. So when I lecture, I tell stories. Well, because I feel, again, it's the way people learn. People learn is a combination of both right brain and left brain. So you have to engage them within a certain amount of didactic intellect, but you also have to engage them within their right brain a certain amount of thinking. And combining the two of them is the way that people will not only learn something, but they will also remember it.
Yeah, empathy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so did you take a course? Did you just
No, I did not. I had enough, with 30 years of experience as a chiropractor and taking other stories that I had heard, I hadn't really had enough to go on.
So actually, your chiropractic practice pretty much inspired the
Yeah.
the
I
book.
found out that when people walk in, it's not really what they physically have as a problem. Most of it is what's upstairs and how they think, and they're never going to get better if they don't think they're going to get better. So my function was twofold, was to take care of them anatomically and physiologically, but also to try and find out what makes them tick and to say, well, you have, again, a goal. Let's get better, but let's realize that you can get better, and then we're going to stay better, because here's what I'd like you to do.
Yeah, you could add my story to the book. I had a bad back for years. Of course, it's still bad, but it doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay.
Because I did that. I went to a pain clinic, and actually we talked about why I was so upset about having a bad back. I mean, it wasn't as bad as some other problems. You know, we went into the whole psychological thing of
Exactly.
my feeling about my back. I mean, my back became like a thing, an entity unto itself, and in a way that was good, because then when I looked at it that way, I could deal with it as an entity.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of pain is.
Most definitely. People will walk in with intractable low back pain, and I would look at them and say, "You're not going to die." And well, yes, no, you're not going to die. You have a considerable amount of discomfort at this particular point. You're not going to die. This is we can help you. Why do you think you did this? Why do you think you bent this way? Why do you think? And then you go into the psychological aspects of it.
Well, I gave up looking for the magical cure. You know, I went to a neurologist, and then I just said, I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life, so teach me how to live with it. And when I let it go, it was amazing how much pain was relieved just by letting it go. So that connection, mind-body connection,
Yes.
big.
Yes, very, 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 very big. And I dealt probably more with that than I dealt with the actual adjusting and what I was doing. I always talk people through what I was doing. I'm putting my hands here. This is why I'm doing this. And then at the end, I said, I did this because I feel that your headaches might get better. How do you feel? And always put the end things like, when you say, for example, if I would tell you, Linda, don't think of blue. What did you just think of?
Blue.
Of course. and I let you out of the, release you from my care for the day. I say, well, don't think about getting better. And they'll look at me and like say, what? I said, never mind. And that's the last thought that I would leave them with. Is they think about getting better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's. I think that's what the basis of much of the Eastern religions is.
Very much so.
The mind control of the body. What did you like best about writing this book?
I was able to express myself in a different way. I was always a talker, as you can tell. And I always enjoyed talking and lecturing and doing seminars and that. But this was a total different format for me, where I had to put things down on paper and then read it back and recapitulate what I wanted to say and hone it a little bit better than just winging it a lot of times. So it's much more of a didactic exercise for me.
It's concrete.
Yeah.
And you can always refer people to it or refer back to it yourself. And I think that all of these books really have a real function in helping people, because if you ever go to the Barnes and Nobles or one of the bookstores and you go to the self-help section, half the store is in the self-help section, because people are always looking for answers, and everybody has an answer
Right.
written in a different way, so that the people who read it actually eventually, if you read enough books, you're going to find somebody
Exactly.
who says what you need to hear. What's the most important thing you learned doing this?
I learned that I could finish. It was very important for me. I mean, with my chiropractic career, I finished school. That's continuing. But this is something I set a goal to do this, and I completed it. I finished it, and I talk about execution. When I do weddings, I love to do weddings, to perform weddings.
Because you're a cantor.
As a cantor, and when I do that and perform that, it's good to finish. That this is something that I set out to do, and I accomplished it. It's a huge sense of my ability to be able to go out of my comfort zone and yet be able to finish a project. That
Okay.
was,
So I perceive that you're a person who has a passion
yes.
in everything that you do. Your book, your chiropractic. I'm sure that being a cantor gives you a lot of satisfaction.
It is just the best.
What's your favorite story?
Probably my favorite story was one that was a true story about a lady who was, she walked into the office. There are certain people that you can compliment them on something, and there are certain people in a practice, and I had a fairly large practice, where you try and go and you want to compliment them on something, but there's certain people that you really have to go long and hard before you can find something. And this lady was just a large lady, with a very, very sweet woman, but there was nothing she had a lot of problems. And we were really pining, my office staff and myself were pining as to what we could compliment her on. And we found out that her hair was always gorgeous. Her hair was always impeccable. So we were all going to compliment her on her hair. She walks in, and we went, Mrs. Jones, your hair looks really good. And then I used to see her in the operatory, and I said, wow, your hair looks like super today. And I let her go, and she walked out. Okay. So as a result of that, she came back 3 days later, and she said, I want to talk to you. And I thought I was going to get sued. And she looked at me, she said, thank you for giving me back my self-esteem. Because it was the only time that anybody ever complimented her on anything.
So that's a wonderful story. So keep up the good work.
I will.
Do you have a quick tip for writers?
Quick tip for writers is, if you have a passion for writing, go ahead and do it. But if you're going to go ahead and do it, make sure you finish it.
And listen to your mother.
I will always listen to my mother.
Write the way you talk.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Great.
Thank you very much.
It was great to have you.
Great